Board games, board games is what I'm talking about. Board games, board games, I'm not gonna shout it. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing. And today I'm waiting for a guest. We have more of the show, we have the rest. Maybe Etan will arrive. I don't know, I cannot lie, but for now I am in my own. I am here in a home. I am going to talk about some sorts of things, which I'll start about after I sing, including board games. Board games, it's what I'm talking about. Board games, I'm not gonna shout. Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are, whenever you're listening. And this is episode 350 of Busy Beats and Board Game Blether. I am going to be filling up a wee bits of time, and if they arrive, then Etan will pop over and we'll chat about games and competition and Mind Sports Olympiad. If it's just me, I'll probably chat about competition. I might chat about the show. We'll chat about whatever comes to pass. And hello, Ian. It is lovely to see you. Thank you for joining me as always. And hello, Matthew Dunstan. Thank you for the raid. And I will just and thank you, Matthew Dunstan, for the raid. I want you to know it's appreciated. Maybe it's morning or bedtime. Either way, it's a meeting of minds. I listened to you a few minutes ago, as I'm sure you know, and it's always fun to have you here. I want to make that very clear. And I've got in the background Etan. So Etan, if the pronouns that I popped on the thing are correct, if you're comfortable with that, give me a wee thumbs up. Then I'm going to add you to the stream. Yay! Just in time. It's lovely to have you. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, thank you so much for me.
Hello, Jay Folsgaard. Hello, Nicholas. Hello, Rob Harper. And of course, Matthew Dunstan. It is lovely to see you all. Thank you. And so now I can confirm that we are talking to Etan Ilfeld. We are chatting about games, competition, and the Mind Sports Olympiad, because this is something that I've never actually partaken in, but it's just such a lovely idea, like taking games seriously. And I want to know a bit more about how this started. I want to learn a bit more about how you run this thing. I want to know a bit more about you and how you fell in love with board games and all those good things and how it relates to your life.
Sure, yeah. Lots of great stuff to talk about. So first of all, this year we're going to be running the Mind Sports Olympiad from August 13th to September 5th, and it's going to be online again because of the pandemic. Usually it takes place in London, and it's in a venue, and it's over the board, a physical thing. But this year it's once again online, just like last August, and we're waiving all entry fees, so it's free to everyone to join, which is pretty cool because we want to make it as accessible as possible. Oh, sorry,
you said August 13th to September the
5th, September the 5th.
Okay. If anyone cares, that starts on my birthday, by the way.
Oh, cool. That's cool. August 13th. Very nice. There you go. Well,
born on Friday the 13th. True story.
Wow, cool. Happy pre-birthday.
Yeah, it's awesome. A few months away, but thanks.
Maybe that means that if you play, you'll do really well. Maybe that's an omen there. A good omen.
I don't know. I'll have to, ponder. But
you know, for example, Nadal is the best player of the French Open, and he always has his birthday at the French Open, which is pretty cool. So usually it's sometimes they even bring out a cake on his birthday, but he owns the French Open and he gets to celebrate his birthday there. So that's pretty cool. So having your birthday in the middle of a tournament is probably a good thing.
And Ian says, well, if it's free, all the Scottish folk are going to be there. You are allowed to be typecasting Scottish folk because I know that Ian is Scottish. If I did not know Ian, I would not be happy with that comment. But I am totally okay with that.
Oh, by the way, totally random, but April 9th was Unicorn Day in Scotland and the US recently. So I'm just sharing a random story. My daughter and we came up with a unicorn themed song. She's turning 4, and we just released it on April 9th on Spotify. So if people want to check out Chloe the Unicorn, I'm very proud of this song. Can you give us
a wee preview just now? Can you sing us a wee bit a cappella?
Well, actually, a friend of mine, Daisy Shoot, who's an amazing singer, she performs it. But so I'm not I'm not a very good singer, but I can say, well, it goes like Chukalamuna, Chloe the unicorn, Chukalamuna, Ray, Chukalamuna, Chloe the unicorn, unicorns go, hey. And then it's got like it's got all these cute things like, unicorn sounds like horn, and then but they're really into corn and strawberries. So anyway, some really weird stuff there. It's a lot of wordplay. It's cute for kids. So
I am going to, if you've got a wee link, share it in the private notes, and I will pop that into the comments. If so, as always, no.
So sorry. So just say I love Scotland. So happy, I guess, post Unicorn Day to the Scottish people, and obviously the unicorn is one of the symbols. I guess it's the official animal of Scotland or something like that. I think.
Yeah, correct. I think it's the lion in England, and in Wales, is it the dragon? Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know what it says in Ireland. I've no idea. But yeah, I don't know if you know the Sunday Times, and they used to have this comic called the Funday Times. And then in the Funday Time, like with the emblem, they've got the cartoon unicorn and the cartoon lion, which is because it's kind of Scotland and England, and I guess everyone ignores Wales and Ireland, which is kind of sad.
Oh, that's not fair.
Yeah, it really isn't. It really isn't. But a quick hello to Ian says, we ate all our unicorns.
Oh.
Hello, Alex. Thank you for joining. If anyone wants to check out all of the links, then please check out Etan's links. But we are going to get into the regular sections.
Yes.
And let's start off with recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. So my question is, what's the last game you've played? What are some of your recent highlights, Etan? And anyone in chat, what are some of your recent highlights? What have you been enjoying recently?
Sure.
Etan.
Well, I've been playing a lot of chess. And by the way, I'll go back. I will share a bit about the history of the Mind Sports Olympiad. Sorry that I didn't answer.
Oh, no. So like the idea is that so we have the regular sections and then we have the main topic later on.
Okay, great. So yeah, been playing a lot of chess online, and I've tried a few games on Board Game Arena, which is a great website for games. I've tried playing Lucky Numbers, which is a weird and fun game. There's a really silly game called Can't Stop that I've also been playing a bit, which is quite fun. So those are some of the games that I've been playing recently. Oh, and Dobble, I play with my daughter a lot. Dobble, it's called Spotted in the US. That's a great game as well. So anyway, that's
quite the extreme. So you've got like the zero luck. Although people argue that maybe you are sick one day. Okay, that's the luck in chess. But essentially zero luck, purely abstract, 2-player competitive game. And then you've got Lucky Numbers, where there's, true to the name, there's a lot of luck in it.
Oh yeah.
and can't stop, which is basically the joy of that game is in someone saying, go on, and then someone pushes their luck more than they statistically should, but they still somehow manage to win that game, and it's completely ridiculous fun.
That's
So
right.
you just enjoy games of all sorts.
I do. Yeah, I love all types of games, and also, in films as well. I call myself, by the way, this is kind of random, I call myself a film slut, in that I'll see any film, anywhere, anytime, with anyone, and that is true. So
But there's an opportunity cost. Like if I said, "Hey, come over to my house and watch a film," then there's a doesn't mean you're going.
Of course there is. But I want to try. I want to see what's out there, and that's the same thing with games. I love playing lots of games. I love playing code names, for example. But that's not something you could play competitively because there's too many options for cheating. But there's so many games for so many different occasions. What do you like to play?
What would I like to play right now? Right now I'm just in the moment. Like I'm enjoying talking to you, and so if you were like, hey, let's play a thing. Oh my gosh, what I'm hoping to play next is to do a wee bit of playtesting with Dinosaurs Love Spicy Pies, which is a game that I'm working on with Rita Modal and also Tiz Creole. Rita, who did King of 12 and Men at Work, and Tiz, who's a visual artist. And we had a really nice chat yesterday after our streaming. And so we chatted about, okay, these are what Rita's done, and talking about, okay, can we turn this into some sort of campaign mode where you've always got the same options to choose the dice, you've always got the same options for selecting, and if you play differently to your right-hand neighbor, you get a wild card, which is a nice wee bonus. You want to maybe be a wee bit different, but then the actual scoring might mutate as the game goes on. And so we say, okay, once you're tired of this stage of the game, progress to the next stage, and it's just another card, maybe like 2 different cards, and it says, okay, score this special way, score that other special way, and we've not worked it out exactly what these crazy options are going to be. But for me right now, the most important thing, I am very much based on what can I get the people that I'm with to play.
Yeah. Everybody's got different taste, different,
Last night, I played a few video games. I played a couple of video games very late at night. I know they're quite reaction-based games, but I played a thing called Poly Island, where you're just moving around and you're...
I heard about that.
It's just things kill you, you move around, and then if you die... It's kind of like Super Meat Boy, but from a top-down abstract perspective and not as brutal. And then I also played this thing called Super Puzzle Platformer Deluxe, where you're just shooting things, and if you shoot, blocks drop down, you're trying to destroy these blocks. If you shoot a block of a color, then all attached blocks of that color also destroy. But you want to make sure that you don't fall down to the bottom of the pit because there's spikes. But if you also go to the top of the pit, then you also lose. So you're kind of trying to balance it, but trying to make the biggest groups that you can. And there's definitely a little bit of reactions and jumping out of the way of the falling blocks because you're a little character. I love games of all sorts. But
I can tell. That's awesome.
Let's move it over to the audience. And Ian says... Ian taught their wife to play Brass Lancashire. That's a lovely one. Was it the new one or the old one? So that's by Martin Wallace, who's been on the show before, an amazing designer. And I know I think it was Roxley did a really good production values with the new version. Have you played Brass?
I haven't. I've heard a bit about it, but I haven't. Tell me more, please.
It's a typical kind of resource management, turn this thing into that thing, upgrade the things, and sometimes you're using the things of other players. There's a whole network building. And
is there any trading?
No, there's not trading. There's a healthy bit of interaction, though. You might be using other bits and pieces that other people put down onto the board. But my favorite game, although I've not played the new version by Alley Cat's Games, is Tinner's Trail. Because I love the thematic rule about mining and then getting the water out. Do you know Tinner's Trail?
I don't, but I
So
get.
the rule is that when you go to get some copper or tin, I can't remember, I think it's tin, hence the name. I think it's tin and copper that are the two resources. You go to a mine, you're trying to get the thing out. You have to pay for every bit of water that's in that mine. And then as you take, each time you go in, some more water cubes gets added. And next time you go in, you are going to have to pay more. So it's asking you to be efficient the first time you go in, not to just go in each time and take one cube at a time. So there's definitely that aspect of, can I afford to wait until I get literally all the cubes? Knowing that that's going to delay me, knowing that I'm going to have to give up a bit of tempo, but knowing that the water isn't going to go in, knowing that it's not going to scupper my plans.
Is it a bit like Coal Baron?
I've not played Coal Baron.
Coal Baron, or there's a name for it in German. I forget what it's called, but it's a worker placement mining game as well. It was quite nice actually.
One.
Yeah, it's reasonably, it's quite fun.
It also has a really nice time track where you play the actions, and then each action that you take moves you forward, attracts so many spaces, and it's always the person in the back. So if you want, you can take really simple actions and you get lots of turns in a row. Sorry. Agreed with Alex, who says opportunity cost is a great point of tension in these types of games.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, a big question for everyone here is, do they prefer to play these games? It sounds like more like multiplayer games, as in three and more, or do they prefer to play 2-player games, right? Because that's already a big decision. That's quite a difference between these Euro games, right, which I love as well, or 2-player games, which are very, very different. Because with 3 or 4 players, you have to think a lot about diplomacy and how you're going to affect people. You're going to rub someone the wrong way. How do you play it, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I was listening to Richard Denning chatting on Back of the Shelf podcast a couple of days ago, talking Richard, about lovely person to chat to. And so back in the days, I mean, this doesn't really happen anymore, but back in the days in 2011 when I was volunteering, and then I think, was it Pat who was always, no, it was Mick who was always kind of being in charge of all the volunteers, but Richard would always be there to say, hey, good job everyone. And so everyone would make themselves known. And even as an exhibitor, Tony Hyams came over a couple of times, actually helped me fix something logistically, like helped me fix a banner. That's just because but talking about Great Fire of London, how back in the day people tended to play 3 or more players. But nowadays, you want a 2-player variant, and that's a new thing for the new iteration.
That's right. I mean, Seven Wonders Duel is very popular. A great example of, an amazing game, Seven Wonders, but also taking it to 2 players. Someone's saying 2 players can be more mean. Yeah, for sure they are. They can be more mean because, you can unleash all your wrath at your opponent. Because it doesn't matter if they come back at you; it's just you and them. If you're mean to someone in a 3 or 4-player game, they can haunt you for the rest of the game, and that you don't want that.
Oh, for sure. Like in a 3-player game, 2 people take each other out. The 3rd person is going to win. But 2-player, even something as fluffy as Ticket to Ride or Carcassonne, if you play that 5-player. Okay, it's a very gentle game. You're not going to be mean to someone because there's 4 competitors to think about, but play it 2-player. Okay, this is vicious.
It is. It's on. That's right. It gets crazy. And by the way, we run a lot of these games, by the way, including Carcassonne. Last year, we'd had both, I think we had 2-player and 4-player. But yeah, it's true. And Carcassonne, from what I remember, I think the actual World Championship is 2-player.
I think that's the best way to do it, because then there's, as soon as you get that 3rd player, I don't know if you would agree, but you kind of start getting into all the politics.
Yes, and I think, look, I mean, this is an interesting thing. In Catan, obviously, that's part of the game. There is no 2-player. I mean, I guess you could maybe try and do it, but the politics are part of the game. But I think you're right. I think that in a lot of these games, king making can be a really a dangerous thing where basically the person who's going to get knocked out can decide who they want to win. So I think I think that's interesting. But in some games, that's part of the idea, right? You have to know how to be clever about winning. So for example, in Catan, some tips I can share. For example, you should usually put the robber on the person to your right, all things equal, because if you go into some sort of like robber war, it takes it's going to take a long time till it comes back to them to move the robber. But when you do that, you shouldn't do it in such a way where they know that you're doing that because it's strategically beneficial to you. You should make some excuse and say something, oh, you've got too many resources or too many development cards, or you're about to block me, I just have to do this. So don't appear too smart and put the robber on the person to your right, all things equal, again, at the beginning of the game. But don't do it in a way that's going to piss them off too much. They're going to just go for you. But don't you don't want to put it to the person right after you, because they're going to hit you right back immediately.
Oh, that's the thing. Like, it is with a game like that, you start to have to be disingenuous. You have to start, and that is the social dynamic of the game. And I definitely want to talk more about this, but I want to acknowledge Scott Moore, who says a recent highlight was playing another face-to-face game yesterday on the roof terrace. We had a few problems with cards blowing away in the wind, but we managed. And that sounds lovely. Well done on you for, playing within the official guidelines. Are they laws, rules, guidelines? What's the correct word at this point?
I think both are fine. Yeah.
But anyway, I'm glad that you had a good day. And
it's nice to have good weather to play outside. I mean, that's a treat.
Now, I want to ask you about you for a moment. I want to ask you, what is a typical day like in your life in the past few weeks? Obviously, it's quite different to what it would be like 18 months ago, but right now, what's a typical day like for you?
Sure. Well, I feel very blessed that I get to work on things that I love, and I usually work from home. I've got a great team in my publishing company where we've got about 30 people, and we publish 100 new books every year. So it depends on the day, but I'm offering usually I get to review the books that we want to commission. So I have to green light each and every one of them, and so I'll read through books. I'll come up with strategies on what we want to perhaps pursue in the future. So publishing is a big part of my day. And then also thinking about building things for the future. So right now I'm thinking a lot about the Mind Sports Olympiad every day. What can I do to make this August tournament as fun and successful for everyone as possible? And today I'm actually going to go. We also run. We have a bookshop for Watkins Books in Leicester Square. So today later on I'm going to go to the bookshop, which I'm looking forward to seeing how things are going since it's reopened on April 12th. So that's exciting. The bookshop was closed for obviously for quite a while. What else? So reading a lot of manuscripts and talking to my team about different strategies. We've been investing a lot in audiobooks lately, which has been very exciting. That's something I'm quite passionate about. Anyway, I don't know, kind of prattling there, but hopefully that makes sense. No,
No, it's all good, and that's exactly what we're all about. We're all about the prattling and enjoying things. And speaking of prattling and being maybe a wee bit silly, it is time for some people's favorite section, which is questionably quick questions. And the first thing I want to ask, that I always ask, is where exactly are you in as much or as little detail as you're willing to share? And I'm not expecting...
Sure. I'm in Angel, which is in Islington in London, which is nice because I was born in the city of Angels in Los Angeles. So now it's kind of nice that I get to be in a neighborhood called Angel. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, and it's a beautiful sunny day outside. I can see the canal actually from my office, which is nice. Yeah.
How long have you lived in London?
About 14 years now.
Okay, and it'll be the same time for you as it is for me. I'm in 1024.
Cool. Yes, so, absolutely.
the question then is, what drew you to Angel? And I'll wait 1 more minute for any questionably quick questions that people want to chuck in from the comments. So
Cool.
what drew you to Angel Islington, London, when you first moved over?
Sure. So originally I came to London to do a master's degree at Goldsmiths University, and I did a master's in interactive media and kind of in cultural studies there, which was really fun. And I fell in love with London. It's an amazing city. It's got so much diversity and culture, and I just loved it. So I moved to. I lived most of the time during my first decade in Soho, which I loved. I mean, that was a crazy place to be. Before we had our daughter a few years ago, we decided that we needed to move to someplace that was a bit more residential, so it was a little intense. So Angel seemed like a good place to do that. So it's not too far from the center, and but it's still central London nonetheless.
Yeah, Soho is very much the clubbing, partying district. So maybe quite loud noises late at night, and
we could hear like all the glass bottles being collected around like 4 or 5 in the morning as well. Like I mean, yeah, and there's always noise in Soho. It was crazy, but it was fun. I loved it. I still love Soho.
So before we get into the topic of board games and competitions and all that, I want to ask, why books? I mean, you say you love books in your bio. You also say that you're a film slut. Is there a medium that you just don't like? Is there anything that you don't like?
Great question. I mean, look, first of all, I'm interested in ideas, right? As Marshall McLuhan said, the medium is the message, right? So often the medium can transform how you think and how you view things, but sometimes I'm just interested also in different messages. So it's not necessarily about the medium. So I don't think the medium is always that important necessarily, whether it's games or a book or a movie. I want to learn, I want to consume, and so yes, I guess like you could say that I'm quite a big consumer of culture, and I like I like going to theater. I like seeing things, trying different things. So I'm always trying to learn, I guess you could say. I consider myself to be a sort of lifelong student, and so whenever there's an opportunity to learn, I want to explore it. But yes, there's an opportunity cost. You can't see all the great TV shows and movies out there. You can't play all the games. You can't go everywhere. So you have to have some intuition. But in general, it's true. I do like to consume a lot of different types of culture. And I'll say that England, the United Kingdom is a great place for that. Also Scotland. I mean, there's a lot of great authors throughout the UK. It's a great place to have a publishing company, and it's great to also be able to work in industries that I love. I mean, that's freaking awesome.
And much as I love Scotland, I mean, if you love people, if you love being around people, then London, with its population density, is a good place to be.
Yeah, insane.
And it sounds like even though maybe the past 13 months, whatever it's been, you've not been able to venture out, but would you say that you are an extrovert?
So I think I'm quite versatile. So I'll switch between being an introvert and extrovert, and I definitely need to mix it up. Sometimes I feel like I really want to be very social, and then I just need to have my own time to kind of just do my thing. I'm a night owl, which is why actually having this interview for me today is a little bit early. And I find that being late, up late at night is a nice way for me to be on my own and without any disturbances, no phone calls, no emails, and just kind of, think about things. So that's my introvert time. But during the day, I try and be more of an extrovert. So I really do feel like I want to mix that. I'm my zodiac sign is a Libra, which is all about balance. And
how's the times of isolation been treating you? Have you felt okay, or have you? Yeah.
Great question. It was challenging. I will say it was tough. during the part of the winter. Again, I try and be, as upbeat and optimistic. That's kind of my nature. Look at the glass that's half full. See being half full, and so I definitely do that. But it was tough. I miss hanging out with people. I mean, one of the most interesting things is, it's great to talk to you right now, and the miracle of technology. I mean, it's awesome. But but hanging out with friends face to face, it's very different. Like I found that
100%. Them filling your entire field of view, having no lag. You don't have to worry about internet problems. You can give them a friendly punch on the shoulder, or kind of give them a hug. I don't know if you are like someone who does much physical touch, but
hugs are great.
Things in real life, which very much missed during the past. I've missed incredibly during the past however long.
And not just that, I also felt like for a lot of the time, like it was hard for me to completely wind down, because even when I'm hanging out with people, let's say online, it's not the same as when you're just chilling, on your couch, talking to someone. I feel like you're just so much more relaxed. Like, so now I've started to do a little bit of that, and I feel, whenever I have that opportunity, like, it feels much more relaxing. But I've missed that. I've been, I feel like I've been kind of working too hard and been, turned on for too long. So, creating that opportunity to wind down. I mean, I've actually gone and had a few massages lately, for example, which is allowed. That's within the rules. That's legal. And I have to say, like, that felt so good as well. You talk about touch, right? Like, so yeah. But also that also forces me to relax, because when you're having a massage, it's like you're basically forced to meditate. You can't go anywhere and just be in the moment or drift off to sleep or whatever. And and again, I guess I found that during the pandemic, I've been working harder than ever before. So, whether it's a film, which is another way to relax, by the way, or reading, great way to relax. I found myself on the computer so much during this period, and it's a bit too much.
Because you're reading on the computer rather than reading physical books.
Reading and taking so many meetings on the computer. You talk about Zoom fatigue. I mean, it's okay, but lots of meetings, lots of reading on the computer, lots of emails. I mean, all of these things that we usually would discuss in person all of a sudden have gone online. So I mean, it's insane how much stuff is online.
I'm surprised I guess it's the nature of it. When you're working and publishing, you need to read those early drafts on the computer. You can't print everything out. Because
that would not be very eco-friendly. No, I mean, the one thing you could do, which I occasionally do, is I can send it to my Kindle, and I have a Kindle that looks more like paper, basically, and so that's a I'd say eco-friendly way to try and do it, and so that's closer to reading on paper, but still not the same.
Why is it eco-friendly to mass produce thousands of books, but not eco-friendly to print off your proof copy?
Oh, great question. That is a great question. Well, usually when you produce a book, it's going to have some sort of shelf life. Books also get shared. Again, it depends, and will be read by more than one person. And often, I mean, you can, if one of the things obviously as publishers that that we find a bit challenging is you can go and buy used copies of books on Amazon, right? You don't have to pay the full price. So, books get recycled. By the way, when you buy a used copy, again, up to you. Do what you want to do. Obviously, the publisher and the author don't get any royalties, right? That's just that's the way it is. But books actually, they do get they do get shared. They do get recycled, resold, and they're also usually printed. We start to print them in on recyclable paper, and do it in a proper way. I think again, it depends, but what type of printer you have, but usually it's not going to be the same type of eco-friendly and one-time type of usage, especially if you've got multiple drafts where you're going to print out each draft. I mean, that's just crazy, right? I mean, unthinkable to do that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If there's constantly the back and forth between you and the proofreader and an editor and like a writer and going back and forth, and yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, talking about science fiction, are you familiar with Henry Kuttner?
No, the best of Henry
Okay,
Kuttner. Wow, I'm going to
that
write
is
that
the
down.
end of that questionably quick question. And my final question.
Tell me more. Do you want to tell me more about Henry Kuttner?
Not just now.
Okay.
That's it. That was actually quick. The final question is, where do you consider yourself more of a curator? And I want to delve into the why books. Could it have been anything else? Was there something that particularly drew you to books as a publishing person? And of course, you have invented diving chess, which I think is such a cool idea, and I want to dive into the story. But do you consider yourself more of a person who brings other people's visions to life than your own designs in general?
Great question. So yeah, I mean, I do think that I'm a bit of a curator, and I did run an art space, by the way, for about a decade, an art gallery. So that's a different space that supported emerging artists, and which was quite cool. So yes, I think I am a type of curator, and I love helping people bring their ideas to life. So absolutely. But I have created a few things, as you mentioned, and I'm constantly looking to create things. I mean, in our bookshop, we recently launched our own little chocolate bar that has its
what percentage of cocoa?
I believe it's a decent amount. I believe it's 55%, something like that.
That's acceptable.
You like it dark, huh?
Yeah. So my favorite is this, which is 100% cocoa.
Jesus Christ! Yeah, actually, that's a great brand, by the way, Montezuma. They've got they have a really good. What was it, like something like peanut hazelnut something one and salted hazelnut or something that was just amazing. But isn't 100% a bit bitter though? There's not much sweetness there.
It's such an intense taste. It really fills, but it's got the citrus flavors. You know what? One day I will do one Sunday, maybe next Sunday, I will actually just sit down and eat it and describe it to everyone watching. That's what I'll do. And
that sounds amazing.
I am totally down for reviewing anything, whether it be board games or...
I can go get a piece of Montezuma chocolate right now if you want. We can both take a bite of chocolate if you want.
I just brushed my teeth like half an hour ago. So.
Okay, fair enough. But I will say, so our chocolate oracle, for example, it's like a fortune cookie in a chocolate bar. So like Willy Wonka, you have a fortune when you open it. So that's something we have in our bookshop, because Watkins books.
Wait a minute. So embedded in the chocolate is this waxy strip of paper, presumably.
Not embedded in the chocolate. It's within the wrapping. So when you unwrap it, between the chocolate and the wrapping, I don't want you to bite on the fortune. So instead of a fortune cookie, we've got a fortune in a chocolate bar. So that was something silly.
It's not quite the same. I mean, the ideal would have been if it was a hollow bit of chocolate, like Little Easter.
Yeah.
That would have been the ideal.
That would be very cool. I agree. But that's too hard to do. So, but the point is, Watkins Books, which it's an esoteric bookshop. We're all into oracles and weird things like that. So, we recently added a chocolate oracle. That was a fun thing to come up with. So I like coming up with silly, playful things. Diving chess is also playful and fun. And I've also produced a few things. So I've written 2 books. So I do get to do some things. The last one of which combines a lot of my interests. It's called Duchamp versus Einstein, and it's got Marcel Duchamp, the artist, who is a huge chess player, who's a chess master, and Albert Einstein's in there, and there's an alien visitor that manipulates them. So again, it mixes games, art, philosophy, all these different things. So I've had a chance to create a few things along the way. And I mean, I mentioned the unicorn song earlier today, but so I like to create for sure, but I love helping other people make things happen, and I love to learn as much as I can, because the more I learn, the more I can do, right? So That's the so
No,
yes,
that really sounds like you're really getting stuck in. And from the comments, Alex is saying, 80% is the maximum that Alex would really want. But asks, have you ever played diving chess with a free diver?
I've played diving chess, yes, with some really good
Have you
divers.
played it with a free diver?
So not a professional free diver, which can hold, as you said, like, free divers can go for like, I don't know, like 8 minutes or something like that. I haven't done it with someone like that, but I've played with some people that can hold their breath for quite a long time. So, but not a free diver. I will say free diving is amazing. I'd like to get better at that. Apparently you can train yourself and increase your lung capacity. So that sounds very interesting. That will definitely help you in diving chess, but you also have to improve your chess as well. Lung capacity will only get you so far. But no, I haven't played with someone who can like is a proper bona fide free diver.
The other question is, if you had an animal familiar, what kind of animal would you like to have? Would you like to have a fox, a cat? Sure. I mean, the traditional is like wee raven.
Well, I love dogs. I've always been a dog person, so maybe a dog. But yeah, the idea for familiar. That's interesting. I don't know. It's a great question. I mean, obviously a raven, they can fly, they can do things. That's quite powerful. I need to think about how to optimize that from my games point of view. But in general, I do love dogs. I have to say they're great, and they're always happy. Well, not always, but usually they're very happy animals.
Okay, I think this could. Yeah, I feel like we could, talk for 2 hours and not even touch upon the Mind Sports Olympiad because it's just so enjoyable. But I think that would be doing you a disservice. So let's actually get to the main topic. I do want to encourage people to continue to comment, ask questions, follow, all that stuff. And let's talk about games, competitions, and the Mind Sports Olympiad. But before, let's start off with your early life and your memories. What's the first game you can remember playing?
Well, competitively, at least, it's chess. And my dad, I remember watching my dad play chess against a computer. He had one of those boards where you'd have these little LED lights light up and it would show you where the computer wants to move, and he'd play against it. And I was 4 at the time. So he taught me kind of like the basic rules when I was 4. But I didn't play much. But by the time I was 6, I was already good enough to beat most of my dad's friends, who were not good chess players, to be clear. They were very bad chess players. But I was, I could handle my own. And then my dad would take me to our local chess club when I think I started going there when I was around like 9 or 10. And then I remember loving the competitive aspect of chess. So chess was my gateway drug into the world of games, which the Mind Sports Olympiad, by the way, kind of blew away because I realized I knew before there were lots of great games, but then it really exploded.
So you played chess. Were you inspired to house rule it much? And Alex says, Alex would really want a squirrel. Maybe you get a squirrel to deliver your pieces or to knock over the opponent's pieces. But I don't know if you've tried shogi or what's it?
Shogi.
Quanchi.
Shanchi.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Or like any number of the Bobby Fischer's Rando chess.
Love all those things. Well, as a kid, my dad was quite a good player, so it took me a while to get to his level. But I remember he bought a shogi set and we started playing, and I would win quite easily, pretty quickly. So he didn't want to play shogi with me, unfortunately, back then. So I didn't get a chance to play that much shogi. But yeah, shogi's a great game. But later on, yeah, I got into. I mean, obviously, as a kid, I would play in chess. We have this thing called Bug House here. It's called exchange chess or Swedish chess, where you play as a team. It's like doubles chess, and it's really fun because you have 2 chess boards, and you and your partner are opposite colors. And when you take a piece from your opponent, you hand it over to your partner, and they can place it on the board. So it's really cool. The pieces fly between boards, and it's a lot of fun. So I remember playing a lot of Bug House or whatever you want to call it as a kid. But yeah, now I play lots of different variants. And you talk about house rules. Back then, I didn't really make up that many rules. Now I'm more into experimenting with different ideas. Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
this is just my own personal.
Sorry. Let me just add one more thing, because you mentioned childhood memories. I do remember playing a decent amount of Risk at home as well, and also later Diplomacy as well.
Ooh.
So, which is quite a hardcore game.
Yeah.
Hardcore
It sounds like your dad and your family were really gamers.
Yes, very much so. And very competitive.
Wow, I'm blown away. So, yeah, just my personal theory of games is that there's kind of three things that draw us to games, right? There's the games as competition, trying to outperform the other person, trying to strategize, and games as strategy. Then there's the games as expression, where it's kind of the storytelling games, RPGs do a lot of this, story cubes, whatever. And then there's also, this might also be part of the competition, but rather than the strategy and the puzzle, you've got the sports. It sounds like you're really drawn to the strategy, the mind games. Would that be fair to say? And you're least drawn to the storytelling, or is that a completely off base?
Well, I mean, it's fair to some extent. Certainly, you know, I grew up being quite more competitive, and the Mind Sports Olympiad is about competition. But personally, you know, I will try different things. I mean, I enjoy playing Dixit, for example, which mixes storytelling with you know, with competition. But it's true. I mean, I was, you know, I kind of wished I had gotten more into like D&D. I didn't do much, you know, Dungeons and Dragons. So yeah, I think you're right. In general, I have been drawn more towards the strategy. But the expression, you know, I think that's, you know, that's also just as important. But yeah, for whatever reason, that was the environment that I was raised in. But I've always wanted to try and do more, you know, other types of games as well, and not limit myself.
No. Let's talk about the Mind Sports Olympiad, how it began, the original motivation. Did you have some sorts of, you know, goals that were clearly laid out, or was it just a, hey, let's try this thing? Talk me through the genesis.
Sure. So first of all, I can't claim credit for starting the Mind Sports Olympiad. It was started by three people. Tony Buzan, who invented mind mapping. He passed away a couple of years ago. And David Levy and Raymond Keane, both of which are chess masters. Well, one a grandmaster, the other international master. And the three of them started it in 1997. They held the first competition, but they had planned it for several years beforehand. And it was quite a colossal event with some of the best players in the world, from chess to Go to Shogi to, you know, it had Catan as well. So I already had Euro games in there from the beginning. Catan was pretty young at the time, which is quite funny, in '97. But had a lot of games, and at the time they really had this really cool idea that not only would it host lots of games, which is great, and today as well, you can come and play only in one event if you want, no problem, that's great, and you can win medals in that one event. But they also wanted to encourage people to cross game and to learn other games, and that's very interesting. They came up with two ways to do that. One was a sort of exam called the Deckamenthathlon, where you would be tested on different skills, 10 different skills relating to games, which was quite cool. And they thought that would be the premier event, but then they had this other idea that they also put into action that first year, called the Pentamind. Penta as in 5, like pentagram, and mind as in brain. Sounds like pantomime, but it's Pentamind. And the idea there was that the person with the best score from 5 completely different games would be crowned the Pentamind world champion. And this would be another way to kind of like find the best all-around games player. And quickly they realized that this was much cooler than the Deckamenthathlon, and that became, I guess, the crown jewel of the event. So since then, we've had a Mind Sports Olympiad every year in August since 1997. This will be the 25th year, and we'll have again a Pentamind World Championship. And I think the Pentamind really does embody the ethos of MSO, which is to get people to come and try lots of different games. And I came for the first time in 2007 just to play chess, because I saw that there was a chess tournament, and I remember looking for chess tournaments at the time. I hadn't played chess for a while after moving to London, just wanted to go check out a tournament. And I went there and I saw all these other things happening. And I saw, there's something called the Pentamind? People could try and compete and be the best overall? Like, that just sounds crazy. So I started playing other games. And I think that happens to a lot of people. A lot of people come often through chess, but it can be through anything, and then realize that there's so much more as well. Yeah.
And what games were parts of that original Pentamind? How do you pick games for that Pentamind? Alex has a question of whether any game can be in the Olympiad, but I'd like to focus on the Pentamind for the moment, and then get to this question in just a minute.
Sure. So for the Pentamind, we've got lots of games. Usually there's about 80 different tournaments, which usually, but certain games will appear more than once. Like I mentioned, Carcassonne, you might have like a 2-player, 4-player.
But I thought you only play 5.
No. That's the beauty of it. So unlike a pentathlon, where there's only 5 events, the beauty here is we've got, we have 80 tournaments. And within those tournaments, some of them will have repeat games, but you'll have different variants of chess, for example. So maybe there's 30 different games, but in different manifestations. And the idea is that there are certain restrictions, but all in all, you more or less, broadly speaking, you can pick any 5 different games and add them to a Pentamind score. And each, if you do well, you get close to 100 points by winning a tournament. So, for example,
when you say your score, it's not just the score in the game. You're not incentivized to pick games with high. It's actually a tournament score based on your performance against other people.
That's exactly right. Although certain tournaments in the past, and we may do this again this year, have had bonus points, premier points. We call them premier tournaments, so they might have potentially higher scoring. But yes, that's absolutely right. So if you take first place in a Catan tournament, that would be a very good result. And then if you also win a chess tournament, you've already got 2 great Pentamind scores. And then if you win our Monopoly tournament, again, you're doing really well. So you add all these things, so we have some restrictions. You can it used to be when we had it physically, we'd have longer tournaments and shorter tournaments. And you used to have 2 long tournaments within those 5 games. So you'd have to choose 2 long tournaments. Now with things being online, it's a bit faster paced. We don't have that restriction, but we do have restrictions where you can only have 3 Euro games in terms of those 5. We do have a Euro Games World Championship.
And then the 2 others need to be classic abstract games, or
so they could be a lot of things. So that's right. So classic would be one of those. Abstract would be one of those. We have exam-based competitions. So we've got speed reading, for example. We've got a creative thinking. We've got a memory competition. So we've got a puzzles, a Sudoku tournament as well. So you can mix and match from those categories. But yes, that's right. And generally speaking, you have to show diversity within the Pentamind, and that's how you prove yourself to be the best all-around competitor.
I'd like to talk about Monopoly, because you mentioned it, and of course it has a renown for being quite often, a long game with a variable length. And look, my personal view, and I'm not saying this is true or isn't, my personal view is that it's a great game for the 1910s. It's definitely, it deserves a lot of the success. Lizzie McGee did a great job, and the Quakers, did a great job of adding the set collection. But, why do you have this? And also, how do you make it work? Given that something like Monopoly, I don't know, do you have Risk? Because that's another game where you can have 2 superpowers going back and forth, it can go into a bit of a stalemate at the end.
Yeah, and diplomacy as well, right? Which we've had in the past. So one thing, I mean, you can do, well, first of all, you're right. There's a lot of luck, and there's, I guess, some king making potentially in, oh yeah, I like that. It's cool. What Aquacelis is mentioning, but there's luck in Monopoly. I mean, it's interesting that actually, if we look at our champions, Monopoly champions are often the same people. So it's not, I mean, there's a lot more to it than luck, I will say, if you look at the people that win. But yes, there is luck, and we wouldn't make it a premier event because of that. When we spoke about bonus points. But there are ways to speed it up and make it more strategic. So for example, we'll play the variant where if someone lands on a place and they don't buy it, it goes to auction.
I thought that was just a rule.
Not everybody plays that. No,
that is one of the ways. When you say it's the variants, isn't that just the official rule?
I think that is the official rule. Yes, I think it is the official rule. But some people don't play that, so we will do that.
Okay, yeah. But,
so, yes, okay, sure, fair enough. But then the other thing we'll do, we also will time bound the event as well, so people know when it's going to finish, and at that point you just see who how much money people have in terms of what everything's worth. So yeah, that's
100%, Alex. I mean, free parking money, like, no, people don't do that. That's rubbish. Bringing more money into the system. No, you need to have money leaving the system, 100%. But let's talk about the time-bound thing, because doesn't that incentivize someone, if they're doing quite well towards the end, might maybe try to play slow? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, so we usually will have timers in that case to, when that happens, to make sure people are maintaining a good tempo. And that's the same thing. Well, it's different actually in diplomacy, for example. It's a lot easier. You could say that you're only going to play a certain number of years, right? Because you have like, so when, then you just know you're going to play to this year and you stop at that point with whatever the game state is. But obviously, look, that's it's not ideal to some extent, but at least it makes running a tournament a lot more practical. Yeah, using chess clocks, for a lot of these games is something we'll do. I mean, we'll sometimes we'll use clocks for a lot of Euro games because of that as well. But yeah, I mean, games like Catan, we'll definitely play them to the end because they don't take that long. But if people do slow down, yeah, we've got clocks, and we got to keep the tempo. When you're running a tournament, you have to be extremely practical, and people need to know how to also think under pressure. That's part of competitive gaming.
I mean, it definitely feels like all of these things are going to arguably change the game from what it is, but it doesn't necessarily make it less interesting. It's just okay. For example, when you talk about diplomacy having a set number of turns, now I will admit this is a game that I know of, but I've not actually played diplomacy myself. But any game, if it has a variable ending, and then you take it from that sort of system to a game where you know exactly how many turns it is, then on that final turn, you're going to know, okay, if I've not already backstabbed someone, then I have to backstab them now. And that totally changes the end game.
Totally. So not ideal. I mean, that's a different type of game. It's rare, by the way. I mean, the Monopoly and diplomacy are examples. We haven't run a diplomacy tournament for a few years now, but Monopoly we run all the time, and that's just how we do it. But that's, I think, in terms of forcing that final game state, I think Monopoly is the only thing we've done that on. And we didn't have Monopoly online last year. I don't think we're going to have it this year either. Sorry to all the Monopoly lovers. We do love running it in person, but yeah, I mean, in terms of what we've got running online this year, you won't have any of that. All the games will be played to the end, and and there'll be none of that type of stuff.
Is it always August until September?
So usually it would take place over a period of 8 days. So one weekend and a week leading into another weekend, and in a physical space from morning. So you'll have 3 sessions: morning, afternoon, and evening sessions. And some tournaments will be double sessions. I mentioned length, some even longer. But because of the pandemic, we were forced to have it online, and we decided to try and make it as accessible to people as possible. We'd restrict it to evenings and afternoon and evenings on the weekends. So there were less events, but then we'd spread it out over a few weeks. So last year it was actually 4 weeks and 5 weekends, which was quite a marathon for the organizers, I have to say. And we tried to avoid having things happening on Mondays and Tuesdays, but that was a lot of effort to organize. It was great. And this year we're making just a little bit shorter. it's going to be 3 weeks and 4 weekends, but still it's going to be a marathon. So yeah.
And yeah, it sounds like you've definitely, this is something that I wanted to talk about, how it's been changing for the sake of COVID. And, you know, Alex talks about chess clock Jenga, which I think when you've got maybe 1 or 2 seconds to take it out, then it definitely gives it a bit of excitement and adrenaline. But let's talk about what kinds of games can you have, because there is physicality. Obviously, diving chess, it's a very physical game. Now, you're not planning to run boxing chess anytime soon, I don't believe. Maybe that's a wee bit too violent for your what you're trying to promote.
Definitely.
But
interesting, entertaining to watch.
Like chess clock Jenga, where you've got, would you have serious games involving contortion? Or
that's a great question. You know, we don't really do that in general. I mean, I guess I'd be open to entertaining the notion of it. You know, like there are a lot of cool things out there, from like speed cups people can do, and there's a lot of things with dexterity. The closest thing we've had to what I would consider, because, you know, diving chess, yes, it's very physical, but still chess at the end of the day. So in terms of dexterity, the closest thing is we used to run Tetris tournaments, and, you know, that's very much based on dexterity. But we haven't run those in a few years. We even had a StarCraft tournament a few years ago as well. So we did try a little bit of kind of video gaming, but usually it's you know, it's chillaxed kind of. Well, not maybe that chill because you've got time pressure, but it's usually going to be a turn-based thing that doesn't involve that much dexterity. It's more cerebral.
I would like to ask you how games are chosen. Let's say there's a designer who's got something that they want to promote, or let's say, I know Alex actually does some puzzle designs, and I, of course, make some games myself. Let's say there's something that we're thinking, hey, this is a game that could be played competitively to a serious standard. What's the application process? What's the consideration process like for that?
Sure. I mean, in the early days, well, not just early, in the normal days, really, it was easier. We would usually invite people to come and demo their game. We have, when it takes place in a physical space, we have a free learn to play room where anybody can just come and learn games, and there'll be someone there to teach them, and we'd have people come demonstrate games. And so if people liked that game, we'd consider it for the future. So that was quite easy. We don't do that now, but we do have people always suggesting different games, and, you know, we try and think about it and see, you know, is this something that we think there'll be some real uptake for, right? Because at the end of the day, right now we're trying to, during the pandemic, we're just trying to give as many people as possible a good time, right? So we are going for more popular things that people know. So a little bit less experimental at the moment. But look, if it exists and it's easy to play on a platform right now in a competitive format, which usually requires a clock of some sort, by the way. I mean, that's the problem with like websites like Yucata. It's a great site, but no clock. Boardgame Arena has done a great job at having clocks on pretty much, you know, all their games. So it's a great space to run that. But yeah, we'll you know, we're happy to consider things and test them out. But again, very selective as well.
Sure, but it seems like when you talk about speed reading and all these puzzle solvings and creative thinking, there's a massive variety.
Yeah.
And so it seems like the biggest challenge is kind of deciding what you're trying to do. And yeah, what games, let's again go back to the start. What was the first ever Mind Sports Olympiad like in 1997? And how is that one different to, I'm trying to think now, 2019, which I believe was the last real one. Sorry.
Sure, real one. Last year was very real. It was virtual, but it was still a real tournament with real medals.
The last physical one.
The last physical one. Yeah, look, in the early days, there was a crazy amount of sponsorship at the time. So they had a lot of prize money. I think that was one of the big differences Today we don't have as much prize money, but we still have some great players, and I would say that the Pentamind, which has evolved over the years, is more competitive than it's ever been, because we have some really amazing all-around game players competing for it. Yeah, I think it's definitely changed. And last year it evolved, the most, really. I mean, we had a massive amount of participation, which was just insane. We had almost 6,000 unique competitors last year. So going online definitely made it accessible to a lot of people. And I hope that this year we can have, again, a huge amount of people playing and enjoying it. Yeah, so that's it's definitely evolving all the time. In terms of games, there is a little bit of inertia that we'll try and keep things that work well, and then we think of changing things that don't. So there, in many ways, we have a lot of the same competitions that we had back in 1997. So a lot of the core is still there, but I think it's been refined over the years. The Pentamind formula has changed over the years. Back then, if you would win a tournament, you'd get 100 points. It didn't matter what the tournament was. And now it's based on the number of participants. So tournaments that have more players, you get more points, basically, generally speaking. And as I mentioned, there's premier events. Yeah, so there's been a lot of tweaks to the system, but in many ways, the core is still there.
And Stream Elements reminds me that it is valuable to get up out of a chair every so often.
Oh, I love it.
Maybe
Let's do it.
Yeah, have a wee stretch. So this is our little robots, by the way. This isn't. So it seems
idea.
like just stretching my leg, even though you can't see. Would you do lucky numbers? It sounds like that. Something like that is just you would.
Yeah, hells yeah. And by the way, we also have the Mind Sports Olympiad. We've got Liar's Dice, also known as Perudo, which again, there's some luck there as well. But I think that's an amazing game, by the way. So good stretching. Yeah, so definitely, yeah.
So,
but I'm not that big into paper, rock, scissors, I have to say. So no disrespect. It's okay.
I mean, it feels like, again, I need to have you back on at some point in the future to nail down exactly what's a reasonable game and what's not, because I know you want to be picky, but that curation and everything, it's just such a... So I wanted to delve a little bit more into competition, like the nature of competition itself. Why is competition important?
Yeah, great question. Well, I mean, it's interesting, right? It's fine, obviously, also to play without competing. But I think when you compete, when you raise the stakes, sometimes it makes it more fun, and also brings out sometimes more creativity. Like, sometimes there's this kind of, I guess, this creativity that comes out of us when we're looking for answers. It's I think competition just sometimes brings the best out of us potentially. It can bring the worst as well. Obviously, it can become vicious, but it's the same thing, in sports. I mean, I play tennis, and I'm playing with someone that's really good. The same thing with chess as well. I'll raise my level, and then we'll both try and get into some sort of zone and see things, and that's really cool. And and it's great to play in a way that I find challenges you, right? I like challenges. Not everybody does, but I think that's a good way to grow in life. And so competition is about a challenge, right? And you're going to lose sometimes, and that's okay, right? Like I think competitions do teach us, by the way, that life, isn't always, it doesn't always go the way we want. Maybe it isn't always fair. Backgammon, by the way, great game that has luck. You might be playing a great game, just get unlucky, and you have to realize that's life to some extent, right? You got to know how to roll with the punches. and be a good sport when you lose.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think competition teaches us a lot of things and can bring out the best of us. But yes, obviously, if someone's a sore loser or whatnot, it can bring out a lot of bad behavior as well, which we discourage, obviously, at the Mind Sports Olympiad. But I like competition. It's true. Some people are not that competitive by nature. I mean, everybody's got their own kind of way about them. But I've always enjoyed competition.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The personal growth, the encouragement to creativity, and I know even playing in London on boards, those competitions, when you're playing with Agricola, and it's like, okay, these are the tournament rules. These are the changes that we're making. Okay, we need to regulate whether you're allowed takesy-backsies or not. And for the purpose of this competition, once you've let go of a piece, that is it. No takesy-backsies are allowed.
Yeah, same thing in chess when we play touch rule. You touched it, you gotta move it. So it makes you reconsider what you're going to do.
And there's something. Normally, when I'm playing a game, my priority is on making almost the first reasonable move that comes to my mind. And it'll be like, yeah, this is a reasonable move. I'll keep the game going. But especially if I'm playing with someone around the kitchen table and I want to keep it going, I don't really mind too much whether I win or lose. And frankly, my motivation is more on the social aspect. Is that person enjoying it? Are they going to want to play it again? And sometimes I would almost prefer to give myself less thinking time, because then I might stand a chance of not winning even a game that I've played a lot more than my opponent.
You're a nice guy. No, sorry, or gal. Sorry, you're very nice. You are very nice, because at the end of the day, it depends on the persona, right? Like some people just just can't stand losing, and they will think
and it's
optimize
important
every
to
single
be
move,
able
right?
to balance both things.
Yeah.
And within a tournament setting, when this is how much time you have, and this is the expected. Now, within Magic the Gathering, something like that, where you can't just say this is how much time you've got per turn, because maybe the person interrupts your turn, and there's a lot of synchronous play. And this is one of the things that they actually incorporated into Hearthstone, the digital adaptation of the World of Warcraft CCG, or CCG, it's are synonymous. But with that, because you have the traps, because you have something that you set up for the other person, same as Codex, I know Serlin worked hard to make sure that there was asynchronous play. So you make your turn and then the other person makes their turn, so that you can make chess clocks and say, this is how much time you're allowed to spend on your turn. And so there's something. But when I was playing Agricola as part of London on Boards, it wasn't ever, okay, this is exactly how much time you've got. It maybe didn't get to that level, but it was as part of the tournament. Hell, yes, if I wanted to spend an entire minute thinking about how to make a critical move, that was understood, that it was a serious thing. And I might say, I need a bit of time for this. And if you want to grab a tea or whatever, or go to the loo, go ahead. But and that's it. As you say, it challenges you. It leads to personal growth. It leads to personal exercise, like mind exercise. The same, like hopefully each day we're doing a little bit of walking around or some stretching or whatever. And we need to take care of our minds. And so that's why, I have lots of admiration for this, or for people like Alex who are constantly making puzzles. And
those are all great games. And part of the beauty of games, especially when you're thinking, is it's the indecisiveness of it, right? When you have more than one option, both or three of them or whatever, that seem equally desirable, and you have to kind of choose which way to go and use your intuition. And sometimes, if you're trying to really optimize, you might think a lot harder even though they're maybe only so far ahead you can take it. But yeah, I think when you're competing, I mean, I think one of my problems is that I'm usually trying to be nice when I'm playing, but I also I'm very competitive. So unfortunately, I'll admit that maybe I think too long even in social settings, because that's my default mode. So I'm not always as nice as you, unfortunately.
Well, the thing that I wanted to touch upon, because we've talked about the value for the competitors, in a competition, there's also the audience, and there's also the organisers. Firstly, in normal times, is there an audience? Is there an audience watching the diving chess and cheering them on? What kind of...
Yeah.
How much do you think about the audience? How much do you think about the spectacle? And yeah, let's talk about that first.
So definitely, I mean, with the Pentamine and also these different tournaments will often have the top board have quite an audience. So a lot of people will start to gather around and see what's happening. They want to know what's up. So there definitely is an audience, and it's interesting. I think for some really good players, that can take them. They're able to take that. It doesn't distract them. You need to be able to do that. I think it's different than in sports, where sometimes having somebody watch you, it empowers you. I don't think you get that quite that same type of power in board games, but it's still, I think it's fun. People like to have people come and watch their game, and even when it's online, on Board Game Arena, for example, or Lead Chess or whatever, there's a spectator mode, and it's really fun. Sometimes you'll see at a table a bunch of people at the top tables. All of a sudden, there's like 20 people watching this table. It's awesome, and I think to some extent that's very flattering to the competitors to that their game is actually interesting to people to see. So that's definitely part of it. Diving chess, it's a little bit harder to see what's happening if you're not underwater. But we do film it, and people can usually watch a bit after. But we haven't figured out. I mean, I guess potentially one day we could figure out a way to make it more for spectator sport. It has that potential, but we haven't yet optimized that.
It feels like you might have to do what they do at some really big concerts and have one camera set up to a live feed, so you see the combination of the person going up and down with a camera for the chess sets at the bottom.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that would be brilliant. Playing in the aquarium, that'd be awesome. Hey, have some sharks around or something as well, right? That would be intense. I like that idea, actually. That's there's a lot of places you could do it that would make it be quite a spectacle. Although right now we're just using normal swimming pools.
I mean, would that actually be possible? Could you actually rehouse all the animals? I mean, there would be serious costs involved.
That would be. I don't know if we have that type of budget. I'd rather play with the fish, alongside me. Let them be part of the milieu.
I mean, it feels like probably the fish might get bothered though. I mean, maybe the fish, by these people diving down and going up.
Oh, yeah. We might annoy them. I don't know. It's
because
true.
People are trying to dive down as quickly as they can, and then
true.
Let's also talk about the organisers. What keeps you coming back? What makes you want to organise it? Why do you think this is something worth you spending your time and energy on? I'm assuming that it's not a thing that the organisers get paid for, or...
Yeah, great question. Well, it's interesting. I now own the event. I will say I've taken over because the previous organizers retired, but it hasn't been a money-making endeavor. I do it purely for the passion of it, which I love, and I've got volunteers that work with me. And why do I do it? Because it's true. It's a great question. It takes so much energy, so much time. I guess I just really love it. And I, as you can tell, I mean, I love games, and also the feedback that I get. I mean, so many people have had such a great time, competing. I mean, when we do it in London, we'll have people coming from all over the world. We've got some of the best players come from Estonia and from Korea, for example, or from the Canary Islands. There's some interesting pockets of teams that come to London. And when it's online, again, you see just how global it is, how many people love playing games, and I'm just very passionate about it. I mean, it's kind of a random thing, but for me, giving people pleasure and creating something, curating, tweaking it, it's I mean, it's just something that I love. So yeah, it's not about money. It's not the day job, and it takes a big chunk of my summer for sure. And it's a bit, September last year, I had to decompress for quite a while. I mean, I was so exhausted. But I think, the other organizers that come and help, they love it as well. And, they're just as passionate and are amazing. So you really,
is
at the end of the day,
ever any sense from your partner to say, come on, Etan, is it Etan or Etan? Etan. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
But does your partner say, hey, Etan, you're taking so much time. Stop doing this silly thing and spend more time with the family?
Oh yeah, I've had that for sure. Yeah. It's a bit of my own crazy, I guess obsession. But I love it, and I try and balance, work, life, family, all that, friends. But when MSO happens, it does kind of take over my life, and and I tell my publishing company during these weeks that I'm not going to be available much. I'm going to be focusing on this. So I'll still have some other things, but I'm very focused, and it's I guess at the end of the day, it's a crazy thing to do. You just got to love it, basically, to do it.
For sure, we all have our passions, and apparently if you were to play diving chess with sharks, that would be very appropriate, given that it's called Schach in German.
Schach. Schach in many languages. In Hebrew, it's Schach as well, and in Farsi, I believe, as well, or Shachmat, checkmate, I believe. In
Farsi, it's Shatranj.
Oh, Shatranj, like the Indian name. Is that right? In Farsi, Shatranj? Okay, well, I stand corrected. So okay, then in Arabic, it's Shachmat. I'm pretty sure.
Might be.
But in Hebrew, definitely, it's Shachmat, Shach, and I don't know, what is it? I don't know, what is it in Russian? I'm not sure, actually. I think it. Anyway.
Well,
have you seen The Queen's Gambit, by the way?
I've not seen it yet. I'm assuming you recommend it.
I think it's fun. I do, yeah.
I want to drill down a little bit into, because you made yourself the owner, and it sounds like for you, it's just that competition matters, and that is why you took it over. But is there some sort of guiding force in your thing? Okay, this is how we prioritize things in any competition. You have some balances to make, right? You've got to balance, are we going to pick the best player? Because let's be honest, if you want to pick the best player, you have to play a heck of a lot more games than people are probably wanting to do in some big round robin. And, play the more games you play, but then it's also how much fun do you want it to be for those people who play? How much time do you want it to take? And do you want it to be exciting for people watching? If you want it to be exciting for people watching, so you want to have that big, like knockout tournaments. That's it. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why the World Football Cup is a knockout tournament after the initial heat, because it's exciting to watch. It brings drama to it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that the best team is necessarily going to win.
Right.
If they had a Swiss tournament, for sure, it would be more likely that the best team that year would win, but that wouldn't be as exciting. So how do you balance these things?
It's a great question. I mean, generally speaking, we would like it to represent the best player within the amount of time that we can go with. So we usually do have Swiss tournaments. And we'll try and have a decent number of rounds in order to find the best player. But of course, you're right. The more rounds, the clearer it will be, and we can't go on forever. We have to we have to end somewhere. And again, to win the Pentamind, it's very hard anyway, because you have to win multiple tournaments, so that's quite hard.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have knockout tournaments in Backgammon, for example, so where it's quite customary to do that. And we've had
so it's not using the doubling cubes, it's just traditional backgammon best, or is it knockout first to some number of points within each round?
That's right. So yes, so we do use the doubling cubes, which is the most serious way to play backgammon. Even though we do have one backgammon tournament that's usually with no dice, that's where with no doubling cubes, I mean. But usually we'll play like to 3, 5, 7, 11 points, and that will be knockout. So we did that last year. We'll be doing that again this year, and we'll have a whole range of backgammon tournaments. So yeah, and the doubling cube is what I think makes backgammon really serious. It takes it to the next level. So I do think it is very important.
Yeah, very modern invention. I mean, modern in the sense of it being a classic game.
Yeah,
same as right. Go continues to evolve with what comma you give the player who goes second.
That's right. By the way, the idea of the doubling die, the doubling cube, it hasn't been used that much in other games, but you can use it in other games. So I've seen people experiment with it in chess, for example. So it's quite interesting. You could potentially use it in a lot of different forms within a match setting, right, where someone's playing to win the first number of games. So I do think
it makes a lot more sense within the realm of this is a game where you're trying to manage luck, and therefore the additional consideration is the likelihood of you continuing to win this game.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, it feels like it's less needed in a game that doesn't have such a high luck quotient.
It's true, but what it will do, at least, it will speed things up, right? That's the beauty of it. So if someone's winning, they double, the other person's going to capitulate, or else they're going to lose 2 games. So it can accelerate things. That's quite useful. But yes, absolutely. Knowing when to double and when to accept or not. I mean, that's what. There's a lot of strategy there.
And I would like to. I know we already touched upon it and chatted about it, but I would like to actually chat a wee bit more about how you select games. I've been reading recently a game by Schmitzberger. I think it's all the way over there. I'm not. I can't quite see it, so I'm not going to run to get it. But New Rules for Classic Games. I don't know if you know this one.
Yeah, that's familiar. Yeah, that is familiar to me.
So within that one book, there's probably like 30 games that are worth serious study and serious consideration. Some of them are pen and pencil games. Some of them are things like backgammon, playing double backgammon, where you roll the dice and one person uses it on this board, the other player uses it on that board. So kind of the same way that you would use duplicate bridge to eliminate the luck from that, you can use double backgammon to essentially eliminate the luck. If you know,
I like it. Although I hope that you have to avoid, I guess, that people would copy each other, right? I don't know if there's the ability for someone just
like
to mirror.
If you run into that, you can just put a thing in the middle and have some sort of screen.
That's right. That would work. Well.
And then
I like that idea. It's very cool.
But then there's so many modern games. I mean,
although by the way, although to be fair, it doesn't totally get rid of luck, because again, like when I guess you get it would affect how many
like
doubles
someone could set themselves up for a certain situation, and you can have a high risk situation that pays off or does.
Yeah,
it doesn't get rid of luck, but it makes it
sure. At least you get the same amount of double like doubles and things like that.
It lowers it.
Yeah, a little bit. That's cool. I like it. Thank you for teaching me that.
Well, but there's things like tracks and Pelago, and if you look on boardspace.net, there's 50 games there that all of them could be serious.
Boardspace has a lot of great abstract games. Yeah, that's true. A lot of great games.
When there's so many possibilities and more possibilities than you could possibly have time for,
right?
How do you decide?
Well, I mean, it's a mix of things. So first of all, not that many of those games are actually popular, right? So often we try and introduce new games. We do, but usually we try and stick to the kind of like the tried and tested games. And and so our new games will always be a very small proportion of the entire tournament program. So usually we'll stick to what works, and if something that isn't that popular, doesn't work that well, we'll remove it. And we'll always make space for some new ones. And for new ones, we'd want to see that we think there's a good reason to add them. And again, there's different categories. So are we looking for Euro games? Sometimes we are. Are we looking for abstract games, modern abstract games? So I mean, it all depends kind of what we're in search of. In terms of the classic games, the classics are the classics. So usually, we'll always have Scrabble. We'll always have some chess, some backgammon. So they're always going to be there. But yeah, for new games, we'll do a little bit of experimenting. But you're right; it's kind of an eternal question, right? And so every year will be a little bit different at the Mind Sports Olympiad.
I mean, it sounds like that, even though it might not be, you might not be trying to turn it into a money-making endeavor necessarily. You want to have something that serves the people, I guess. So chasing after popularity makes sense. Have there been games that you've tried to push a little bit further than you otherwise might have because they've been games that you have personally loved and you felt, okay, there's so much more to this game. Why don't I really want other people, and even beyond the giving it the prestige points for the Pentamind?
Sure, absolutely. There have been, I really like First Class. I don't know if everyone's played that. It's a fun game, and we've had that for several years. It hasn't been that popular, so we stopped having it. But we're always trying different games, and we tried recently. We really liked. Someone came and demonstrated Battle Sheep, which is a fun game at the Mind Sports Olympiad. We thought that was really fun. We added it, and people have loved that. So we've had Battle Sheep for the last few years. But we're always looking to try things. Sometimes people really want to play it. Sometimes not as much. So that's why each year is an experiment in a way, and we refine it for the future. But we like trying new games, and obviously, if a game has, this is more from an abstract sense, if it's got a simple rule set but is really deep, we love that type of game. So Corridor is a great example of a very simple game that's super deep.
No, that makes lots of sense, and that's definitely one of my favorites games, Corridor. And obviously I'm biased having licensed the game to Gigamic, but I did put Corridor, I think Pilos.
Sorry. Why are you biased? Or maybe I'm
because Gigamic pays me lots of money each year.
Okay, fair enough. Well, that's that's a great game. So
100%. And
we
it's
also
possible that I might be reviewing.
We also had Quattro as well, or Quarto. I forget. What is it? It's Quarto.
Yeah, I'm biased, but I like that game less than the popularity. I personally, I want to have some ownership of my own pieces. I feel like Quarto, it feels like the way it goes, there's an interesting puzzle for each move, but I don't see it as a feeling of strategy building up.
Totally.
Whereas something like Pilos or Squadro or Quantic or or Corridor, and those are all the Gigamic abstract games that I can think of off the top of my head. But if we want to go outside that, like something like chess, any of these things, like maybe that's something that people love about Quarto, and that makes it a bit different. That's each turn, like it's a new puzzle, it's a fresh puzzle, and you really only are looking one or two moves ahead. To my mind, it doesn't feel like there's a long-term strategy there.
Very different.
And for me, it kind of, that is personally my least favorite of the wooden games that Gigamic produces. But I will say, and again, I am very biased, but I believe that all the games that Gigamic is currently producing are really good games. But definitely, Yogi is the best. But again, I am very biased because, yeah, that's my name there.
Oh wow, that's cool. I need to try playing that. So, is there a way to play it online?
Well, it's a game all about contortion, so
that's
really,
that's contortion. So it'd be hard. Okay, sorry.
On stream.
Okay, interesting. So how do you play? Well, sorry. I'm sure.
So Yogi is basically draw a card and do what it says. And the card might say one finger touching nose or one finger touching ear, two hands touching this card on top of head, and you still need to draw your next card. And
it's a bit like Twister.
It tests a similar dexterity. It's testing your big body dexterity, and to my mind, I think there's only really 4 lines that do that. Yogi, Body Party, well, I guess there's also Funny Bones and a few things that were discontinued. Twister and Dancing Eggs. And for me, these 4, let's say there's 3 games that are currently in print that I know of that are really in a similar vein. And Yogi, again, I am incredibly biased, but it has the most variety. Anyway, cool. Let's talk, because...
By the way, bravo to you for putting things out there. You're clearly, a creator as well. So that's awesome.
For sure. And, that leads me to, my other bias, which I did actually want to talk about firstly. And hello, Clea, it's lovely to have you. And yeah, I'm biased, but I think it's very fun. And I think that you should all go and buy the game. I'm going to be back in London soon, so I will actually be able to send things out fairly quickly if you want to get a copy. But I want to ask you about which game you feel like you gave the most time to and you put the most effort into making it succeed, but it didn't quite get the popularity that you wanted it to. So you had to.
I feel bad, I don't know, like sharing something like that. You know what I mean? Like I can, but there's certainly are multiple stories, but I don't want to, although maybe not, because you could say that perhaps by doing that,
but that means that it's underrepresented. That means that there's a lot of love, that there's something there that for whatever reason people weren't quite seeing.
I see. That's true. Yeah, interesting. Well, we recently
if you feel uncomfortable with the question,
a great game that I'll say that we haven't had enough people play, I think, but I've enjoyed learning recently is called Circle of Life. It's on Board Game Arena, and I think that's a really cool game with very simple rules that kind of models an ecosystem, and you have these creatures evolve, kind of, but it's very simple. You just you capture space, and it's a territory game. But that's again a game that perhaps people should pay more attention to. For example, we had again, I mentioned First Class. Oh, I've played some great games in the past. We had Shakespeare. I don't know if anyone has ever played Shakespeare, which was a great game. Really weird mechanism. Has a really cool way where there's worker placement, but you bid to see who goes first. You bid for how many workers you're going to take, and if you get greedy, it means you're going to go last. So you can get more workers but go last. Anyway, it had a really cool mechanism where everybody bids at the same time, but it didn't really take off. But again, I thought it was a brilliant game. Unfortunately, again, I guess I'm feeling more comfortable. But again, it's a shame. It's not easy there'll be a lot of brilliant games out there that don't always take off. Like it's a tough scene out there for some extent. But yeah, Shakespeare was brilliant. What else? Trying to think here. One game that did.
Is this the Shakespeare that you're talking about?
That is, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, as anyone who's watched the show a lot, I mean, for sure, I believe that the success of a game, it has so much to do with the marketing, to do with the luck, to do with things that are completely unrelated to the design of the game.
That's right.
And that is the sad reality. That
I would recommend that if people want to try a good game, it's not too hard, but there is some complexity, but it's so well designed. Yeah, it's a brilliant game. I thought Shakespeare is wonderful. I mean, what is the rating on Board Game Geek? Actually, I'm curious. What did they give it overall reviews?
I will have to.
Well, I'm curious, but I thought it was a great game. There's a
7
lot.
points for 2015. I mean,
That's
when
a great.
it's
That's a
more
great.
than 7, that's like, and it's actually ranked 519 out of all the games in the world. That's a really strong thing, because when you're in the top 3,000, you know, given that there's, you know, hundreds of thousands of games on Board Game Geek, to be in the top, you know, thousands, and this is number 519, that's really high.
Yeah, but the point is, I don't think people play it anymore, unfortunately, or I don't even know how easy it is to buy. Maybe you can still buy it. I don't know. But yeah, but that's the thing. It's very competitive.
Apparently, if you want to buy it today, you could buy it for $65 plus postage from the US.
Okay, so that's a little awkward, but not terrible.
Yeah, that's not something that's up for spending. I mean, if it's on Board Game, is it on Board Game Arena? I would be up for.
I don't think so. But
that's the thing. Like, publishers have to, you know, have. That's the thing. Like, as a publisher, as a self-publisher, you know, you have to have the budget to advertise, to spread the word, have programmers, to get digital versions of your game on Board Game Arena for people to be able to try them before buying them. And then at a certain point, you get something like Z-Man Games, who, sorry, I'm going to try and choose my words carefully, who it could be said that from a certain perspective, they threw a hissy fit. And I'm not saying that they did throw a hissy fit, I'm just saying that it could be said that they threw a hissy fit. And what I believe basically happened is that these are games that are probably selling well. Tigris and Euphrates, Taj Mahal, they're brilliant games by Reiner Knizia, and they've got the classic Heroes line, and then they're discontinuing it because it doesn't sell enough for their tastes. And that's the thing, when you've got that, for a big company, it is all about that opportunity cost. You know, we talked about that right at the start. You want to watch everything, you want to play everything, but you can't. You want to try all the games, but you can't. There's
also bear in mind that in order to keep things economical, when you manufacture, you know, when you reprint, you have to have a minimum quantity usually to make it sensible. If you're printing too small a quantity, it's going to be too expensive to make, and people won't want to buy it. So it's tough. I mean, the economics of some of these things can be quite challenging, and you know,
and for some companies that might, but for some companies that might be okay. If we've not sold 200,000 per year, then we're going to discontinue it. For other companies, that might be 50,000. For some companies, it might be 20. For some companies, it might be okay. If we print 1,000 or 2,000 per year, we're going to keep doing it. And it's also about having too much bloat in your line when you're trying to get your people to sell it to the distributors or trying to sell it to the shops, and you need to make sure that it's kind of comes down to what are your ambitions, what profits do you need from this game.
Yeah, but it's also you know, it's brutal out there. I mean, you know, which is cool. There's just so much stuff being created. Yeah, it's hard, and then you never, you know, there's no accounting for the public's taste to some extent. Some things will just you know, become very popular, and some things not. There is some logic there, but it's tough. I mean, it's similar in books. As a publisher, you know, we've had some great books, not all of which have had, you know, the uptake we think they deserve, and some books have, you know, outperformed, which is awesome. Obviously, that's great when that happens, but you know, it's hard to predict the future and you know, and see what's going to generate a buzz. And you know, Azul, people love the tactility of it as well. Like, it often has, you know, it can be, and it's also a great game, but you know, there can be a lot of like random things that can really propel a game forward, and they're usually up against lots of other games at the same time. So yeah, it's we live in a very creative world, and yeah, there's a lot of competition and opportunity.
And it's not always the best things. It is often things that just have more clever marketing. Something about
sometimes
the public imagination. Sometimes there's just inertia that it's been popular for over 100 years now, and it's continued to be popular. Let's be honest. Would Monopoly be so popular? Would Scrabble be so popular? Would chess be so popular? Like, I'm not saying chess is a bad game by any means, but would it be so popular if it were released today? Or would Hive be the more popular game? I personally think there's equal quality in both of these games. Or would it be something totally different?
That's a good question. I mean, I think Scrabble would be very popular. I think people do like, it's a great game that involves words, and people like that type of stuff. So I think Scrabble would still be very popular. Chess, it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of games like chess to some extent. You mentioned Hive. It's true. I don't know. I mean, obviously it's got this history behind it, but chess is a great game. I mean, it is in a way, in the Western world, it is kind of like the game of games, in that it's probably the most popular game out there by far. So it's sort of universal language to some extent, and you can see there's so much streaming on Twitch and YouTube for chess. I mean, it's crazy. So chess is very popular. And again, you talk about, like, there's different reasons people play games, and one of the reasons apparently that people like chess, perhaps one theory, is that it's a hunting game, and it appeals to the hunters within us, and we like to go and hunt the opponent's king. But yeah, it's true. Critical mass helps. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
they don't have to know the rule book.
There is a lot of complexity to chess, and the question is there enough depth in the game to merit that complexity? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't.
I think so. I think so. One of the things that people have mentioned, apparently Demis, who's one of our all-time champions, has mentioned that's really nice about chess is it's got this asymmetry of two equally powerful pieces. That's the bishop and the knight. And when you have two equally powerful pieces, it makes the game very interesting, actually. So that's quite cool about chess. So yeah, I don't know. It is very. I mean,
this is
very
one
well
of
balanced,
these questions that we could chat about for ages.
Yeah.
Now, let me finish up with an incredibly self-serving question. Let's say someone had invented some sort of word game that was multiplayer solitaire that you can play on stream, or some sort of word game that or a whole bunch of word games, at least one of which might be quite good for competition. How would you advise that they get that into the Mind Sports Olympiad?
Well, a good start is to send an email to mindsportsolympiad at gmail.com and propose the game, and let our team consider it. When it takes place in physical form, talk to us before and ask to demonstrate it in our demo room. We will give you, a table. We'll give you space, and we love having, game creators come and demonstrate their games. I mean, that's just a wonderful thing. So, hopefully next year we can have a tournament in real life, and that would be great.
And Alex suggests a Yogi World Championship. But I think that sort of contortion, it's not really the vibe that you're going for.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It sounds like a lot of fun, but I don't know if it's if it's exactly a competition for the Mind Sports Olympiad. For the same reason, we wouldn't have, code names. Like it's got to fit kind of like the competitive nature. It isn't just about dexterity. But I'd love to watch it.
But it has been lovely chatting. I made a small mistake. I said that was my final question. my final question is actually going to be, what plans are there for the future? So obviously you're running this year, you're just making sure that that happens. What can you firstly talk about this year again, for those who weren't around, running from 13th of August to 5th of September?
Yeah.
And how's that going to differ? How's that going to differ because of the world we live in? And then what are you planning for 2022 and onwards?
Wow, great question. Well, right now I'm still figuring out this year. So we have the dates, but we haven't published the actual schedule yet. So within the next month or so, we will be publishing the schedule, and that's very exciting. And then trying to just make it a great tournament, and also figuring a lot of things. I mean, having it online, for example, we have to figure out how to stop cheating. That was one of the reasons that we were concerned about having certain games online. Last year, we had to ban someone who cheated in Othello because they used an AI in the Othello tournament. So we want to keep it clean while it's online, so that we know that we can trust that people are playing fair, and have a fun tournament that people really enjoy. Next year, I'm hoping that you'll see both a physical tournament and also some form of an online tournament as well, because I definitely think that the pandemic has shown the potential of online tournaments, and it's something we'd like to keep doing. But we'll try and find a way to do both, basically. That's so there's a lot to figure out, and I don't want to give too much away, but we've got. I will say there is some sort of secret games project that we will share as we approach August. Something new, but that's a sort of teaser. We are planning on having something we've never had before at the Mind Sports Olympiad this August. But I'm just going to tease people by saying that.
This August,
August 13th to September 5th. That's
you're going to have something completely new this August.
Well, kind of, yeah. But we'll still have, it's going to be similar in its design, that we'll have it on evenings and afternoons and evenings UK time, which is also very friendly to North America in terms of time zones. But we've had people from all over the world compete, and we want people to participate from all over the world. We'll keep it free this year as well. And we'll be offering medals just like last year, so you can win medals. You can, wow. It's all very exciting. You've
got to post these actual physical medals out.
Yeah, but people have to pay. People have to pay to ship the medals. But yes, that's right, we do. That's a pain in the ass, by the way, because when we do it in person, you just give the medal easy. But we've had to post medals to places like all over the world. And logistically, it's actually been very challenging. But yes, we will do that again nonetheless.
I imagine it's going to be a struggle to recapture that buzz, but I'm sure that you will be able to do a great job. I'll be very interested to. I've got the dates now. I'm going to set that aside. And
you got to come play. You have to.
For sure.
You're going to love it, and you will. There will be lots of games there that that you'll enjoy 100%.
Have you actually got Pelago? This is one I'm a fan of.
Pelago,
yeah.
Pelago. What is Pelago? I'm going to write down Polago.
No, let me Palago.
Pelago.
I don't know if this would be.
Where do you play it?
It's so good. I play it in real life. It's also on boardspace.net.
Okay, boardspace.net, yeah.
I don't know if it's on Board Game Arena though. Does boardspace.net have a good enough timing system?
Boardspace.net is interesting. I mean, first of all, great job to Dave, who's created it. I mean, I think he's done an amazing job. He added for us actually recently, because the timers used to only have, I think it would give you time between. Oh yeah, it would show you the differential in time between you and your opponent thinking, which is quite a weird way to do it. Yes, this is right. That's right, Pelago. That's right. I have seen Pelago. That is a very cool game, I have to say. So yeah, Boardspace.net is cool. The one thing that's a little bit challenging about it is it doesn't have automated Swiss pairings. So which board, a lot of websites do. So you'd have to do that. We'll use like a Discord channel to coordinate that type of stuff. But obviously it's a lot easier when that's automated. But boardspace.net, it's a lot of great games. And Pelago, obviously, yeah, that's a brilliant game. And one of the cool things about boardspace.net is you still have a lot of AIs, so you can play with a bot if there's nobody there, which is cool.
Yeah, Pelago and Hive are two that I played a ridiculous amount online, and then actually bought physical copies of because I enjoyed it so much online. And
yeah, great games. Hive, and I love Hive as well, I have to say. We will definitely, I don't know about Pelago, but we will 100% have Hive again, which we had last year. So we had
great, lovely. Yeah. John Yanni is so lovely.
Oh, you've met the designer?
Oh yeah.
Wow, so cool.
They live in North London, but we've met a few times at conventions and stuff.
Amazing. So I mean, genius, the design, the fact that you build a board out of these hexagons, brilliant. Love it.
It has been such a nice chat. Thank you very much. We talked about the viciousness of two-player games with Carcassonne and Ticket to Ride. We talked about the genius of Martin Wallace with Brass and Tinner's Trail. We talked about the fact that you live only 20-minute cycle away from me, so we should, get together sometime.
100%. I would absolutely love that, Bez. Let's do it. Yes.
Awesome. We talked about making an art space, falling in love with books and competition, being a slut for films, and just wanting to engage in all the things. And we talked about being eco-friendly, maybe having things on your Kindle or your laptop, unfortunately, rather than books. And so making sure you've got to take care of your body as well and disengage and sometimes sit on the couch. We talked about chocolates, oracles, which is just an amazing concept. I just love this. And
I will give you, when we meet up, I'm going to give you, as a gift, I'm going to give you a chocolate oracle.
Amazing. And we talked about, we didn't actually get so much into it. I wanted to talk about bluffing and Magic Circle because when you've got games that are specifically about bluffing, like Diplomacy, like Coup, like The Resistance, like Werewolf, it's like, okay, I'm going to lie. But if I'm playing Ticket to Ride, let's say, or let's say Catan, where you say you've got to pretend that you're picking on the person to your right for some other reason, so it's not super obvious. There's something weird about the Magic Circle there, because what expectations are there with lying? And you've got to say, okay, do you just say within this framework anything goes and anything that you say doesn't impact what you do in normal life? Because there is definitely a question there.
It's very tricky.
100%. We talked about the origin of your event, the Mind Sports Olympiad in 1997, with Tony, David, and Raymond, one of whom has sadly passed away, which, of course, lots of love to everyone left behind, and it seems like they contributed to some amazing stuff. I had to chat to the others about the initial stages of this, and we talked about the decamentaphlon, like this exam that you set up, which
we haven't run for several years because we usually it takes so long to compile this exam. It's a lot of work, and then there haven't been that many people who would participate in it. But I'm hoping to bring it back in some form in the future as well. But we started doing it off and on, like every other year. But because again, it's a big exam to create.
And like it sounds like there is so much going on, because when you're doing not just, okay, here's a game that we've run many times before and we can do exactly the same thing, because let's be honest, if Settlers of Catan worked well last year, unless there's some massive change like a pandemic, you can do exactly the same thing this year. And in all sincerity, anything that, like Hive, if it ran well online last year, you don't need to really change anything for this year. Whereas if it's something like the speed reading exam or you need to compile a new thing and a new set of questions to make sure that people were actually reading that. And it's like
and find an unpublished book, which fortunately I have access to. That's easy, but we for speed reading we have to have a book that isn't in that nobody has seen before,
which thankfully works very well. And Actually, Alex, who might still be listening, is a very, very accomplished puzzle designer. So I don't know if you're looking for someone to join the force. I shouldn't be volunteering other people. But we talked about you finding out about it in 2007 and, just falling in love with the competition.
If people want to help out, by the way, they also they should reach out if people want to help and volunteer. Also, send me an email, mindsportsolympiad@gmail.com.
Mindsportsolympiad@gmail.com. That is the email address. And we talked about competition with your dad, beating your dad very proficiently at shogi, because maybe you learned the rules a wee bit better and faster, whereas your dad had all the experience at chess. And yeah, I was just talking about what a good puzzle designer you are, Alex. And yep, there we go. Alex does love making puzzles, and lots of love to you as well, Claire Llewellyn. Lots and lots of love. And we talked about raising the stakes, the competition. It adds creativity. It has personal growth. We talked about diving chess in aquariums. We talked about Swiss tournaments. We talked about tension. We talked about picking games. We talked about the popularity. And we talked about some things like Shakespeare, that maybe that's the way that games are. It's released in 2015. It's lovely design, and then it doesn't quite pan out, and it's discontinued, and it sinks into obscurity.
Yeah.
But it's been a lovely conversation, and if people want to check you out, where would you like people to check you out?
Well, for the Mind Sports Olympiad, I suggest they go to msoworld.com. If they want to learn more about the sci-fi books we published, there's Angry Robot books, which is great sci-fi. Repeater books we didn't get to talk about, but some really good kind of countercultural, lefty politics, great imprint. And Watkins Publishing for self-development, so which is quite cool. And they can, so that's just a taste of some of those things. And if they want to check out my book, by all means, then they should look up Duchamp versus Einstein, which I co-wrote with Christopher Hines, who's also a really great sci-fi author. Love Chris Hines.
Thank you again. And if people want to check me out, I am just search for Stuff by Bez wherever you want. I'm streaming every day at 10 a.m. for the next 50 days. YouTube, there's the Discord. Please join the Discord, stuffbybez.com/Discord, where I like people to just share what they're enjoying. Share pictures of foods that you enjoy. Share recent games you've enjoyed. If you've got any design questions, then feel free to pop that up. And we've had some game jams in the past, and we've had... So we've got separate channels for a lot of different games, a lot of which you can play for free. Like my Make a Word Search game, which all you need is the rules, any book of your choice, a bit of paper and a pen, and you can play that. It's roll and write, but instead of rolling a die, you flick a book to find the thing. And you just start out with a 5x5 grid and play it. And also the two links that I am kind of pushing today. Firstly, I've got a poll on Twitter. Check that out. I'm curious to know, would you prefer to always be observed or never be looked at? Because it's a philosophical question, and I'm curious to know where the population lies. But I've only had like 14 people answer it so far. So definitely go in and...
those are two harsh choices there.
Yeah, it is very harsh choice. And so far, out of the 13 choices, almost 1/3 have chosen the damn you, I won't choose option. I wasn't sure whether I should have that choice or whether I should just make people choose. But I thought, to make it more scientifically accurate, if it's a flip of a coin, I want to give people the choice of just, having the null votes, essentially. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you did well. Also, I don't know which one of those I would choose, to be honest. The panopticon affects our behavior, right? So I don't know. But then again, you don't want to be invisible. So
I mean, I I mean, Alex mentioned, oh, who would like to stream multiple hours every day? Like, obviously, here's a person who streams for like 2 hours every day. But I am quite. If literally all the time I was observed, even when I went to toilets and even when I was in bed, that would definitely be something to get used to. But I think I would be happier with that than never being looked at. And I know that 100%.
There you go.
That's cool. I'm very curious about other people's thoughts, and check out the L deck. And I want to say, yeah, thank you, Claire Llewellyn, for such kind words. And I want to say thank you, everyone. Thank you, Etan. Sorry if am I pronouncing that correctly?
Close enough. It's close enough. My name, it's a hard name to to say. Etan.
Etan. It's just because I need to say it enough times so that I remember. Etan. Etan or Etan?
Etan.
Etan. Okay, so thank you, Etan Ilfeld, for coming on.
And like I said, let's also hang out sometime in real life. I would love that.
For sure, 100%. And we can play some game where we take our time and then have drinks of tea or something in between.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the end of the show. I have one last question for the audience, although Etan, you are also welcome to answer, which is, over to you. What are you up to? You can share, but only if you want to. So after this show, what are you up to? Are you going to be able to enjoy the sunshine today? Is it sunny where you are? Do you have a meal to look forward to? Personally, what I am doing today, I am going to have a meal in the garden because we are fortunate enough to have an open space where we can eat with a person who is not part of this household. So we are going to eat 5 of us together. And there's 4 people in this household, 1 person outside this household. We're going to eat, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I am also going to just do a couple of chores and try to spend as little time in front of the computer today. And I might do some, we might play Dinosaurs Love Spicy Pies like I mentioned. If not that, it'll be Horrible Abominations. But let me know what you're up to. Etan, what are you up to?
I'm actually going to go to Soho and visit the bookshop to see how things are going. I haven't been there since it reopened, so I'm really excited to see that. And it's a beautiful day outside, so I'm really looking forward to going out and about and just kind of getting a sense of some sort of normality.
Blue skies with a white sheen. And Claire is also off out to see a friend for a birthday walk. That sounds lovely. Enjoy your day and lots of love. Alex has got a new book of songs. So Alex is a musician, as you might be able to tell by looking at the profile picture. And I'm going to take a look through and try them out. But that sounds wonderful. What instruments are they for? I hope that you enjoy playing them. And for myself, if you have enjoyed this, then please check out my link, stuffwithbez.com/streams. This week, I am going to probably make tomorrow and Friday a little bit faster than usual. Tomorrow is all about musical shenanigans, where I will get my keyboard, I will stand in front, and if there's any songs that you think that I should play, preferably non-copyrighted songs, so that I don't have to worry about the videos, then please chuck them into my Discord. On Friday, I'll be chatting with whoever wants to join in about how you are, and that is the topic. As always on Friday, it is all about you, because I really care about how you are. Saturday, mentoring Dutch Yoda. Sunday, talking about the stream, taking a bit of a look back and taking stock of where I am. Monday is going to be a publishers group. Tuesday, meeting James Hammy Hamilton, which is an amazing retailer with so much experience playing wee whimsical creatures, game making next Wednesday, and that is what I am up to over the next week. Please share, spread the word. And again, once more, thank you so much, everyone. And apparently those songs are for ukulele guitar. That sounds wonderful. So, do you have any final words, Etan?
No, that's great. I've been trying to learn to play the ukulele. I'm not very good at it. I've tried using Musician, which is an app, but anyway, that's my random thing. But that's awesome. I love music, and yeah, that's and it's been such a pleasure chatting with you and hanging out. I feel like I could do it forever, and yeah, it's so thank you so much for today.
So, as always, I am going to raid someone. I am going to raid UK Games Expo today. I are chatting with Herefordshire Board Games. Oh, these are lovely people. I can't remember the names of the two individuals involved, but they do a lot of charity stuff. They have giant versions of board games at Aircon. They're super amazing folks, and I'm sure it'll be a great chat. But for now, if you're going there, please copy paste the raid call, all those love hearts that I've got. There's only one thing left to say, and that last thing is to say bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. And bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye-bye, Alex. Oh, I love this. Bye-bye. Thank you for diving, pun intended, into a myriad of game discussion along. Bye-bye. Bye, Alex. Bye, Cleo. Bye, all you lurkers. Bye-bye, anyone watching this after the show. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye-bye.
So should I just like leave studio? I'm not sure what the protocol is.
I just intentionally make it awkward for 5 seconds.
Okay, I love that. Okay, good. I like a little bit of potential awkwardness. I can roll with it. That's fun. That's cool.
Wow.